So now we are back. In the last video we took a look at Season of the Witch Samhain Oracle, and so now we're going to be taking a look at Seasons of the Witch Yule Oracle. And so obviously you can see this has a much more Samhain-y, Halloween-y kind of vibe to it, and you can definitely see the Yule Christmas vibe in crossover in just the box thing. We have the red, we have the green, as I showed in the last video, although some people won't watch them both, so I'm going to just point it out. The Samhain has a red back and red border or foiled edges, and the Yule Christmassy one has the bright green and the back and on the edges as well. So these are meant to be able to interchange them, combine them. Eventually the intention is to have 8 of these, one for each spoke of the wheel of the year, and to be able to either draw from them during their season or in another season when you want to bring in some Christmas energy, you want to bring in some Samhain energy, or, you know, as I said, in the seasons themselves, but to be able to either combine cards into one big deck, like cards that you love from this, cards that you love from this, and kind of combining a deck. I'll be interested to see. Let's just take a quick peek. I wonder, you know, the Samhain deck had familiars, tools, and then the energy of Samhain. And so I wonder if this deck is going to have something similar, because then you would be able to combine all of the familiars and or all of the tools, or, you know, and so on, so forth and so, you know, so on. That would be interesting to see. We'll look as we go along to see if that happens. But so that's what we're taking a look at today. Again, as I've said, the boxes are really gorgeous. It's Rockpool Publishing. I like the foil overlay on the titles, and you can see it here on the side as well, which goes obviously with the foil on the sides of the cards. So it looks really nice. It's a good, compact, sturdy box. You know, what more? It's got a green moon instead of the kind of blood moon of Samhain, and we can see that on the back side as well. We'll take a look at the guidebook in a second. Obviously I already showed you, but here are the backs. We can see the same moon, same design, same hands, but whereas there were like branches with no leaves on them, now we have the red bows kind of tying into that Christmas feel to that, and then we have the bright silver green gilding. Again, I'm not a big fan of really high shine gilding, but it, you know, it is what it is. I do like that there are the different colors on the decks. I would, in mass market decks, to be honest, I would prefer there just not to be gilding, and then I'll just edge them the way that I want to edge them. But you know, this isn't made for me, it's made for the masses, and there are a lot of people who love that extra of gilding on there. We'll come back to that in a second. Let's take a look at the guidebook, and I'm literally coming right from having done the other walkthrough, so you know, I'll definitely be a little bit of comparing there, because I just did that walkthrough. Again, much like the Samhain one, I love the color tones and the kind of graphic overlays of this guidebook. Is really well done. I just think they did a beautiful job of having the energy of the deck here with the color and the use of the color and the illustrations. We have the same about section for both the two authors, because there are two creators. One is Lorraine Anderson, sorry, and she is utilizing a blog as well as a boutique surrounding magic and earth-based arts, and draws from her varied cultural heritage, which includes Beninese, Romanian, and Irish. And then Juliet Diaz is an indigenous Cayano, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, Cubana, from a long line of curanderos and brujas on both sides of her parents' lineage. And then the illustrator for both of the decks so far, and I'm assuming through all of them, is Giada. I'm not sure if that's how you say that, Rose, and she is a Kentucky-based watercolor illustrator. She definitely has a folk style to, I think of like a folk style to her artwork, and she infuses her paintings with longing for the old ways, a love of folklore, mythology, and I know on the other one I think you talked about fairy tales, and you can definitely see that in her artwork. She talks again, or they, I keep saying she, but it's two. They talk about the wheel turning and going through each of the seasons of the witch. They've done Samhain. They're doing Yule, or Yule just came out. I believe they've noted in an interview, which I'll put in a link below, that Beltane is actually finished. And so doesn't look like they're going to be continuing to go like directly in order. But she talks about how the project started. I read this in the last one, so I'm not going to belabor it because it's not actually a problem so much in this one. But they do take the time to discuss the lack of diversity that for people of color authors, the deck would had a decided lack of diversity in the Season of the Witch Samhain, and so they address that in this guidebook. They talk about how they kind of lost their path there, and by the time they really realized the situation, it was already in the print mode, and so that they are taking this opportunity to address those issues that people had, both not just of, from what I understand, not just of people of color, but also men, and also there's something else, but I think maybe even some more diversity in ages as well. Talking about reclaiming the shifting witch energy, and then they do talk about religion. There are some overlaps so some people coming to this might be purely pagan and don't want to see any Christianity within the context of it. This does understand that there is an overlap between winter solstice, Yule, Christmas, as we now know it, and that our cultural heritage, those of us utilizing Christmas in the modern context, that is a combination of both Christianized and pagan ideas and practices. And of course, those pagan practices came from other practices that were merged into those particular burgeoning cultures as well, right? So there's an understanding that these things shift and change, and that most people today do lean into a mix of both. Not all, but some do, and so they do talk about that fact in this deck, or how that is a combination in this deck. So it, like Seasons of the Witch, the Samhain Oracle, each card includes an original poem written by Juliet. I called them flavor text. Apparently they were poems, so I, apologize for that. I said they were very poetic, and I do think that, as I said in the last deck, that can really help to have words just pop out of that, even if you don't utilize the full text there. Definitely talks about how you don't need to just use these at Yule or around Yule, and then gets into the spreads. 3-card, an interview. The last one had quite a few. Christmas cross tarot spread, evergreen wreath. So like the Samhain one, a star, winter care, a new year ahead. They definitely did a good job of having spreads that had to do with the season and the theme of the deck. That's something I quite love. And then we get into the same setup with the cards. We have a colored image of the card, the keywords, the text, so that you can read that poetic piece there, and then the message. And does this one have a reversal? Let me see. This one does not say reversals. Both of them seem to end with additionally, maybe a given this, and additionally maybe that, and Not always. So it doesn't have a straight section for reversals like Samhain, the Samhain one did. But let's, as we did with that one, take a look at the text so you can hear it. I love starting out with bear. So here we have bear medicine. The keywords are hibernation, meditation, and healing. There is no tomorrow without the healing of the past, for in stillness you shall find yourself right where you are. That's the text that we have there. We don't have the keywords on here, but we do have the keywords in the guidebook. You are such a, oops, I'm not even where you can see, I'm sorry. You are such a strong, sacred soul, but even the strong need time to rest. Making space for solitude and healing is not a sign of weakness, but self-preservation and self-worth. It shows a deep love and honoring of your most sacred treasure, you. That is why healers, shamans, gurus, and guides the world over make alone time such a priority. Having a meditative practice allows you to heal mentally, spiritually, physically, and emotionally. You have pulled the bear medicine card because you will find guidance and understanding and healing for your situation in moments of solitude. You will begin to see things from a different perspective once you have had time to recharge your batteries. Your problem may even present itself in an entirely new light after some self-reflection. Additionally, receiving bear medicine may be an indication of a dormant healing ability. Bears are associated with healers in some cultures, and seeing a bear is believed to be a sign that you are ready to ascend to your destiny as a teacher and guide. But before you can heal others, you must learn to listen or learn to heal yourself. So that's what we have for an example of the text. Obviously, it goes through all of the cards. And, oh yeah, look right here at the back. I was just flipping back. We continue to turn the wheel, moving on now to Beltane. This deck is a celebration of new beginnings, passion, fertility, and creativity, and a general celebration of life. We continue with I'm not sure. Incredible illustrations as always, but with richer, more expressive colors. We invite you to continue on this journey with us as we turn to the spring season. I wonder if they're going to go through, I know they started with Samhain, which is, you know, obviously I think quite a marketable season for an oracle deck. We don't have a lot of them, but I wonder if now they're going to do sort of the main you know, the main equinoxes and solstices. Sorry, that is what I am trying poorly to say, because now we have the winter solstice. No, because they're going to Beltane, which is actually the spring peak. So I was thinking maybe they were going to go to spring equinox, but that would be Ostara. So yeah, they're just, I think, maybe going to jump around a little bit. We'll see. But in the end, hopefully we end up with 8 of them. That's a huge undertaking, right, and project, but I hope that that is the case there. Okay, so let's pull this aside. And again, you know, there's the back, there's the edges. The cardstock is typical rock pool, which means it is glossy, but it shuffles and holds up really well, even to riffle shuffling. Again, I don't know with I don't have any rock pool decks, I don't think, that have gilding, and I don't know how well that's going to hold up to my riffle shuffling. You're really not supposed to riffle shuffle gilding, but I riffle shuffle everything. So, and I don't mind my decks looking like they're used. I don't like them to chip big chunks, but I don't mind them looking used. So there's that. We'll give it a shuffle at the end. So again, bear medicine for hibernation, meditation, and healing. I'm going to start making some piles. That's obviously like a familiar. Candle magic. Now we had so this would be, I should have put this in order. We had a candle magic, but obviously it's a different energy with the Samhain oracle. So let's just take the guidebook, because that's alphabetical. Because it would be interesting to see if there's some crossover cards, but then they're approached differently for the seasons. So for example, we have candle magic in the Samhain. Let me pull it up here. So we have the candle magic here with intention and prayer. And here we have intention, prayer, and hope. And there's definitely a different, that feels like they're having a seance in some way, that type of, Samhain-y, Halloween-y energy, where this does feel very much like stepping into the magic of Yule and the magic of the lights and the magic of Christmas time. So that's interesting. I'm going to see if any other crossover are in both of the decks. So here we have a cardinal medicine. Oops, let me go back here. They don't have now in the first in the Samhain deck under candle magic, they have all color associations for candle magic. In this one, you instead have a magic tip of carving your intention onto the candle itself. So you do have some practical suggestions there. Here we have partnership, honoring the sacred self, and uniqueness for cardinal medicine. Next we have ceremony. The key words for ceremony are rite of passage, direction, and intention. I'm just gonna, they're alphabetical, so I can peek to see if we have I feel like we have a ritual instead of ceremony, so I like that. Again, we're kind of looking at similar things that we're going to utilize right in the different seasons and what those are flavored by when they're in those seasons. So instead we have ceremony. You know what, this is not gonna be good, is it? This is starting to trigger my brain of liking to make these sorts of connections. So luckily I can hit pause and see where some of those overlaps are, and so that we can kind of see the differences when we come through these. I promise on the next one I'll pause. But there may not be a bunch. I'm just curious because we definitely have, I think, are going to have crossovers, which makes sense. So here we have a ritual card versus a ceremony card, and kind of going in different directions there. Here we have chills. Upon my flesh, within thy bones, quivers a crawling, frozen in numbness. Shall I ignore or shall I bestow it? A frozen knowing looks back at thy soul. So we have chills for a wake-up call, awareness, and a warning. Here we have a cold moon. We had a moon in the last one. We had a dark moon in the Samhain one, and now we have the cold moon in this. So I like these types of crossovers. Release, purge, resourcefulness, and nurturing. This is beautiful. Here we have contemplation. It looks like almost like setting onto a grave or a cairn, or standing stones in some way. Reflection, review, and lessons learned. Here we have crone, and we definitely had a crone. So this was the crone of Samhain, and now we have the crone of Yule. So that will be, I love that idea. Like if you're going to end up with a crone for each of the seasons, I think that would be really amazing energy to like pull out the crones, or put all of the, as you're trying to build your deck from the various, the various seasons, to be able to pull out specific ones, I think is really cool. Okay, it wasn't called crone, but it's our elders that we have in the Samhain. Okay, I'm gonna kind of make these into piles, as per usual. Here we have the darkest hour, which I think is absolutely gorgeous. I love, love, love this card. We have a similar type, but this is spider, but I love the horns with the spider web for the Samhain, whereas here we have the antlers here and the moon cycles, which is really gorgeous on both of those. She looks really, really powerful. Here we have dove medicine. Thy wings are thick and strong, I see, for they have battled the most unforgiving winds. Be proud, be free, my child. Go on and soar like never be. So, sorry, on the darkest hour, we have keywords of the longest night, abyss, and void, sorry. And on the dove medicine, we have forgiveness, freedom, and new beginnings. So here we have falling in love. This is our first male in the deck. There wasn't any men in the other one. There was in the original, but in the mass market there was not. And here we have losing control, connection, and partnership. The thorns of roses rip open the heart, only for thy petals to bleed into thy soul. So this could go like in light or shadow. And falling in love can be wonderful, but it can also be really scary and difficult. Here we have family, keywords of support, roots, and tradition, and we have another male here, as well as already seeing, I think, some more diversity in terms of skin tone. It's not the all pure white kind of, again, Morticia Adams of the last one. We do have some varying skin tones and hair colors that already look much more diverse group of people going on. And again, I think it worked for the Samhain, but obviously it was problematic, and making this a lean into this energy of family for Christmas time, I think makes a lot of sense. So here we have that, and we do have obviously a mixed race couple here. Here we have Father Christmas, another male obviously, and very important. Keywords here are naughty and nice. How did I get here? Lost perhaps? No worries at all. Gather yourself and clear the frost, for the good still lives in you, dear. So there we have Father Christmas. Here we have feasting, which certainly makes sense around this time. Having enough nourishment, providing. I do think of feasting a little bit more at, like, for the autumn equinox, because I don't know how much feasting would happen just moving into winter time. You'd want to have some of your food, but so there's a little bit still in a modern context. The Christmas dinner is huge, right? Super important. So I think that that makes sense to me. Here we have the forest card. Going into the wintered forest, strength, patience, and grounding. It's kind of funny to have a grounding with a witch on the broomstick here. This is the first one I feel like that feels like, again, a little bit more leaning towards Halloween, but what I liked, or Samhain, what I liked about the Samhain one is that we had a couple cards that were leaning into autumn equinox and a couple cards that were leading into the energy of Yule, or the winter solstice. And so I think this as well, we're looking at slightly more at that cross in between time between the energy of the Samhain and into the energy of Yule. And that, you know, we don't have light switches here, and so I liked that about the other one, and I think we'll see the same in this one. Next we have frost, which I think is obviously an important one. Oh, sorry, I was going to say, in the forest, she does, or they do give some different types of trees that people use for Christmas trees, and what some of those meanings might be. We have frost for divination and signs, so that is interesting. Ice cold melting in time, a frozen glance at what lies behind. Puddles, frozen lakes, icicles are excellent surfaces for scrying and finding answers. There is a divination one in the using cards and things like this. This is doing more outside earthy divination, which is pretty cool. Excuse me. Here we have gatherings. Gather, gather, festive witches, speak of joy and drink to wishes. Take one, give two, celebrating all blisses. So we see a group of people, again, all different genders and ages, kind of joining together, which is lovely. The keywords there were exchange, gifts, and festivities. Here we have gratitude, acknowledgement, and appreciation. This is really beautiful. I love that she's kind of walked out into the woods. It would be cool if that she had those lit candles that you often see. Although I think that might be something in Baltimore. I could, don't quote me on it. But that is really beautiful. Here we have the hearth. I do think it's interesting that we have the cards from the deck in the picture frames. I quite like that little nod to that. But yeah, the fire and the warmth and sitting around the fire and lighting the candles, I think are really beautiful. You know, it certainly speaks to winter time, and it certainly speaks to Christmas time. Here we have light. Hope is but a word casting the unseen. Let there be light where light is but a dream. That's really pretty. The key words here are hope and return of the light. Here we have merriment. What joy, what glee beams from the sounds of voices, uplifting the webs of sorrow, glimmering as if no tomorrow. Those are those crowns of candles I was thinking about. Happiness and following your soul. Here we have mistletoe. Not to get kissed under, clearly. Fertility, protection, and spark of ideas are the keywords here. It's a beautiful picture. I like the stringing lights behind it, and then the mistletoe at hand. Here we have Mother Mary. Again, this is one of the more religious connotations to Christmas. Mother, nurturing energy, and wisdom. Mother Mary is known as the seat of wisdom, and when she appears in your spread, she guides you to seek wisdom in the divine powers that be. The universe, God, Spirit, the all-powerful Creator, your spirit guides. What you name this power doesn't matter. What is important is that you know you can call on this force anytime you are in need. The universe will lift your spirits, comfort you in hard times, and guide you on your path when you are lost. Just like a loving mother will always be there for you in your time of need. So it really does call on that kind of powerful spirit by whatever name you use here with Mary. Here we have offerings. Keywords of devotion, exchange, and balance. I like that. Here we have ornaments for reflection, memories, and intent. So it is a remembrance of what once was and with what will be, a fragile beauty beaming upon thee. They say that. I know this is poetry, so you're going to do what you want, but I have a hard time reading that, not the. There. So we have ornaments. We have perseverance here. This is kind of interesting because it has that Red Riding Hood kind of feel, and the dropped apples. We had apples in the other one as well, in Samhain, but this was definitely of the poison apple variety. But I still like that kind of carryover. And again, that connection, but looking at apples in a different way. Again, I would love to see what they're going to do. Obviously, with apples will be quite different in the autumn equinox, but here we have much more of the poison apples. And then here, we're not looking at the apples as necessarily bad. It's more that she's carrying the apples and then she trips and she falls as she's going to grandmother's house. Over the river and through the woods to grandmother's house we go. She doesn't have a horse and a sleigh, apparently. Here we have poinsettia for beauty and darkness, transformation, and shadow work. Cast the shadows, scream silence at them, dear witch. What lurks inside transforms into the most beautiful of beauty. There's another one in the other deck of stomping your feet and screaming into the night that I think is really powerful. But Poinsettias must remain in complete darkness for at least 12 hours a day over 5 days, a process called photoperiodism. So it talks about poinsettias, which are natural or native to Mexico. But yeah, and they've definitely become a sign of Christmas. So we have poinsettia, mistletoe we had. Reindeer medicine is absolutely gorgeous. I love the moon within the horns or the antlers. It's just really beautiful. Inner strength journeys, fighting for your dreams. Here we have remembering with reflections, inner knowing, and realignment. Definitely have some veils going on at this time of the year. We had some in the other ones as well. There's another one over there also. So they definitely like that concept of the veils, which makes a lot of sense with the turning of the wheel. So we have remembering. We have ringing the bells, banishment, and charging. Ring thy bell to cast them out. Ring thy bell and dance about. Swirl the sound amid the winds. Nowhere to hide, for all will ring. So I love that usage of ringing them. You know, you can ring bells and things like that to clear energy. And so I like the way that they're using that, not just as sort of Christmas bells only, but sort of as clearing of energy and things. So that's the ringing of the bells. Here we have self-care for keywords of balance and priorities, because it gets a little crazy around the holidays. Beautiful silent night, meditation, peace, and stillness. You know, that quiet, especially Christmas Eve. I love Christmas. I'm a huge Christmas fanatic, and so I love the energy of this. It's not over the top. I like just a little bit of subtle lights here in the star at the top. You see it, but it's not, you know, over the top Christmas, even though I love over the top Christmas, but it is quite beautiful. Here we have snow, softness, patience, and allowing. Here we have solstice. So I'm guessing this is the card. I wonder if this is, although that's not just the Yule. I thought we might have a Yule card. We have a All Hallows Eve card in the Samhain one. Let me just peek so that you can't see. I wonder if this is our... We do have a Yule log, but I guess this would be sort of the equivalent. I wish it had said winter solstice, because obviously we have a summer solstice as well, but it's quite clear we're not in summertime. Ignited fire within, finding self and truth here. Here we have squirrel medicine with planning, secrets, and trust. We have the star, which is absolutely gorgeous. Inner knowing, direction, your North Star. Here we have storm. I don't know that to me, all of the other ones I feel like do. Like this to me doesn't necessarily feel like storm when I look at this. I think of like a fairy godmother in a Christmassy kind of way. Gathered energy, challenge, and change, because they do have some cards that are quite powerful and intense. This to me doesn't quite have that intensity of storm energy to me, but obviously I like having the card storm, of gathering up that energy that happens there. So we have that. Although think about it, we're not talking about thunderstorms of like the spring. We're looking at a snowstorm, which we can see that clouds gathering there, the snowstorm. So I'll have to, you know, give credit where credit's due. Here we have telling stories, kind of sitting around the fireplace and telling the stories, which I think is an important part of the holiday and just of winter. You're stuck inside and you're, you know, instead of just staring at your screens, like sit down at the front of the fire and tell some stories. Beautiful tranquility here with the little witch. It's the season of the witch overhead, even at Christmas time. Peace, silence, and healing. Instead of the Santa sleigh, we get the witch here. Turning inward is quite powerful, image-wise. Connection, self-discovery, navigating inner landscapes. A lot of going within here on this card. We have the unknown with potential, creativity, and risk. What we don't know is as much as we do know, kind of thing. We have the wise men. I guess that's what she's talking about. Although I don't find this particularly to, you know, when I see this, I think of like a druid. I'm not really thinking about wise men like necessarily Jesus in the manger wise men. So I feel like you could use this. It says, if it wasn't for the familiar songs that echo through my spine, I would have lost what is lost and never found my purpose. To me, I think you could go either way. Could you lean into the Christmas aspect of this? Sure. But when I first saw this and saw wise men, even knowing there were Christmas connotations in this, the first thing I thought were druids. So, you know, do what you will with that. This is beautiful. We have the wreath card. That is got keywords of eternity, growth, and the symbol of circle. And then we have the Yule log, which obviously is an important tradition. I like the mushrooms that are growing on top of it as well. Keywords of letting go, creation, and then also the combination of the god and the goddess. And, you know, they talk about the Yule logs here and having them burn for 12 days and all the representation there as well. So that is the last one of the cards. So there were definitely some, let me zoom out here as per usual. There were definitely some crossover cards here. The solstice, obviously with the All Hallows Eve. I liked the use of the 2 apples. I would like to see spring apple trees in bloom. I'd like to see apples through the rest. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I like that the divination was approached in different ways. These are tools of divination, or utilizing that versus like looking into frozen lakes and water and the ways in which frost is crackling on the window pane. I like that. We have elders in Samhain deck with the crone energy in the Yule, although this I think still embodies crone energy. We have two, you know, I'm assuming we're going to have a different moon for each of them. We have the cold moon in Yule with the dark moon in Samhain. We have ceremony and ritual, similar ideas but different. And I like how that they're mirroring those. And then the candle magic is definitely approached in different ways. This is more communicating with spirit because we're at the thinnest veil, and that's a different energy than the candle magic that is being done here. So again, it will be interesting to see if we see different iterations of those throughout the rest of the decks coming in. So I did want to point that out because I did see some of that overlap. I enjoy that. I think that that is a great way to tie the decks together, but also to show that different things can look different. How we approach different parts of our practice can look different, you know, at different times of the year. So I think that's great. I do have piles. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different animals in this iteration. There are more animals, but that are actual animal cards compared to just doing a quick count, but I think there's 6 in the other one. So again, by the time you have 8 decks, you could have quite a nice animal deck that leans into the seasons. So I like that. And as far as I'm aware, I don't think any of these are ones that are the same, that we have the same animal. Now in this one they do call them squirrel medicine, reindeer medicine, dove medicine. They don't do that in the other ones because these are seems to be more like animal medicine, where the other ones are animal familiars in the Samhain one. So that might change up, but we still have a building deck of animal energy there. I would say there are a few more in this deck of cards that, you know, don't necessarily have, the focus is certainly not on people, but like on feasting and the hearth and offerings and things like that. Kind of non-people, even though there's a hand here, it's kind of non-people kind of cards. We definitely saw more gender and age being shown in these cards, I think, than we saw for sure in the other deck. A bringing in of some male presence, a bringing in of different ethnicities. Even in when cards that we have just hands in, we can see a variety of that. So I would definitely say that the leaning into different genders, different ages, different ethnicities are definitely focused on more in this deck for sure. And then of course there's some that just don't have any, or that's, you know, another ethnicity as well. So there's definitely and clearly an intention to pull those things in. And I think that it works really well at Yule anyways, right? Especially the idea of family and gatherings and things like that certainly make a lot of sense at this time to pull that energy into play. We definitely have even more ages and genders as well. Obviously, we don't have, it's staying more along the line of a gender binary, but we see great intention being put in to diversify this in a lot of different ways. So I think that says a lot. That somebody took on, or multiple somebodies in this case, took on the criticisms and the thoughts that, you know, about the reception of the first deck. Although I think it was probably well received in some ways, just in terms of the deck as it is, but then took on those conversations and those criticisms and, or, you know, shifted the direction of things in the next deck. We saw that recently. I just did a walkthrough of the Enchanted Map that by Colette Baron Reed that was reintroduced, kind of updated and reintroduced without being borderless, and they changed out some cards there, although, you know, that's still got a strong presence of European fairy type energy more so, but they definitely made some changes to shift things in the right direction. So we're certainly seeing that result of some of that conversation, I suppose. I'm sure too many, too little for all of the conversations. But in this case, I think they did a good job. So here we have the frost, like paying attention and really seeing what is to be seen in your family connections. Family at Christmas time is such a loaded thing, isn't it? It is wonderful, and then it's full of sadness and it's full of dysfunction. There's so many things that are going on in the area of family around the holidays, and so having some discernment and really paying attention and looking at the family dynamics as you go in and utilizing wisdom in those interactions would be a good advice for the holidays, I think. So it's quite beautiful. I do feel like some of the, I'll have to, you know, sit with this. I have not used this at all, where I have played around. I have had the Samhain one longer, although I didn't do much reading with it. But because I had gotten it at the end of the season and was going into Yule by that time, so I haven't used it much, but I have some. And I felt like none of the energies were really overlapping, where I did feel like there was some feeling like there were some energies that were overlapping. But every time I went in and looked at the couple that I thought with the Samhain, they were different takes on them. I think a lot of this is going within. It's the cold, it's the dark, it's a time to really think about how you got to where you are before we move on to the winter cross quarter, where we are starting to make plans for the coming year. This is a season of reflection for me entirely, and so I think a lot of that inner work makes sense in a deck like this. So I think that in the end is actually going to be just as it should be for the season. So there you go. That is a look at this. As always, you know, I try twice a year to do a video where I go through all of the decks that I've done walkthroughs of and talk about how I have utilized them and what I think about them after using them, right? There is a difference between a walkthrough and a review of something that you have done a lot of work on. I enjoy both of them, clearly. I really, my activating a deck and leaning into the energy of the deck comes from this, comes from sitting down and thinking about these cards, looking at them. What are my first impressions? What am I thinking about the keywords here? What do I think about the images here? How does it feel? Does it feel cohesive? Separating things into piles. How is this working? What were they thinking when they did this? Did they succeed at that? Those are things that interest me when I go into working with a deck. And then you see how that plays out. So I think that there's room for both. And so again, I will see, I'm going to obviously be leaning in a little bit more to the Samhain one first, but I do a lot of intense work around the winter solstice. That is the beginning of my new year, and so I'm really looking forward to utilizing this deck for that. And again, for times when you just want to bring that energy into July or August and you need a little bit of that to be brought into play. I don't think that these need to be relegated just to their seasons. They're just going to have particular, oops, wrong box lid. They're going to have particular strength in that time. And it's great to have that because we really don't have like a deck for each of the seasons. So I think it's a great idea, and they're off to a really good start. Big work, a big bite they chewed off to do 8 full decks like this, and I'm really rooting for them that they are able to see that across the finish line. Okay, I'll talk to you all later. Have a wonderful rest of your day.